Because there is no argument here. There's just the sugar rush that the no contact people get from never coming in second in a I hate Trump the most contest. Really? That's your strategy, to go full high school and tell the guy with all the power he can't sit with you at the lunch table? To borrow a phrase familiar to HBO viewers, you are not serious people. Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 Days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion, and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human adjacent.
Bill Maher just did something unusual in American politics. He turned the camera directly on his side without recoiling. The host of HBO's Real Time has a critical message for the Democratic Party. He is persuasively arguing that if the DNC is to continue winning national elections, major adjustments must be made. They seem to be stuck in the past with their messages. Their policies are failing to connect with millions of ordinary Americans, and their internal politics are growing increasingly divisive. Maher's criticism was forceful in addition to being sharp. Please click the like button as we are currently discussing all of this.
But as it is so late in the game, let's just go right to the granddaddy of bargains now. The left will seriously quash all their loony woke shit, and the right will stop the slide into autocracy. That's really the only card left to play. Because the basic problem we have in America is conservatives think the liberals are insane, and they're not completely wrong. Now, I don't think most liberals are insane, but neither do they make it clear they disapprove of the ones who are, and their cowardice in not marginalizing their own crazies has been their downfall.
Maher started by highlighting what he sees as a fundamental weakness in the foundation of the modern left. Democrats are not inherently progressive. Most aren't. The real problem, according to Maher, is that very few of them are prepared to publicly voice their silence, which has become a political liability in and of itself. When party leaders like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Kamala Harris consistently avoid addressing the more radical voices within their party, what message does this send? Maher responds directly. It expresses a sense of consensus. Whether they want to or not, their silence has an impact on perception, and in politics, perception often outweighs reality. Maher argues that the Democratic leadership's incapacity to establish boundaries has allowed critics to characterize the party as radically woke. That label has alienated moderate voters. It has obscured the party's identity, and Maher thinks that rather than a single policy failure, this confusion has been the primary cause of the party's persistent problems at the national level.
At Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by sex doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Actually, it makes perfect sense. And it's obvious that it does.
But this is where things get even more worrisome. It's not just politicians who keep quiet. Maher observes that prominent scientists and left-leaning public intellectuals are subtly supporting claims that don't always stand up to scientific scrutiny, rather than disputing claims with facts and evidence. Why? Because it's now dangerous to speak up at work. People are conscious of the potential for missed opportunities, lost platforms, and online backlash. As a result, rather than being corrected through open communication, negative ideas are strengthened. They gain popularity not because they are true, but because those in the best position to disprove them have decided that the cost is too great. Maher claims that this is a quiet crisis with broad ramifications that is evolving in real time.
A lot of stuff like that on the left, and when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. That's what they're saying. They see gender as only a construct and sex is assigned at birth, and they say, we're not doing that. Transing kids by self-diagnosis with no age limit, no parental notification, and no acknowledgement of social contagion, not doing it. Asylum now covers any reason for anyone to come to America, not doing it. Homelessness is a lifestyle. Natural immunity doesn't count anymore. Whiteness is toxic. Penises in women's prisons. Welcoming the intifada. We're not doing it.
Maher asserts that a number of senior party officials are also aware, even though they are aware that some of the concepts being promoted go against basic science and common sense. They opt for moderation. They choose to say nothing. By doing this, they allow the most vocal and radical voices complete autonomy to distort the party's image from what the majority of Americans actually think. In addition to confusing voters, this deepens internal divisions within the party. According to Maher, the more a leader tries to avoid controversy, the more controversy they invite, because a leadership void is always filled by someone.
There is no arguing here. There's just the sugar rush that the no contact people get from never coming in second in a I hate Trump the most contest. Really? That's your strategy, to go full high school and tell the guy with all the power he can't sit with you at the lunch table? To borrow a phrase familiar to HBO viewers, you are not serious people.
Next is the strategy, or more precisely, the anti-strategy. Maher is direct. If Democrats keep disparaging Donald, they will lose the 2028 election. Since it didn't work before, doubling down won't change anything. Think about what happened before 2024. The most extreme language employed by his critics caused voters to question the message itself rather than diminish his support. People started to disregard it. Even worse, it encouraged more people who support. However, Democrats were too focused on disparaging one man to offer voters a candidate they could genuinely support. Rather than a compelling vision or creative ideas, there was resistance. Maher states unequivocally that opposing something won't help you win an election. It's crucial to give people something to believe in.
What exactly is the argument? That by talking to Trump, I'll elevate him? Oh my God, don't tell me he could become president. Well, I guess Van Donny is going to elevate Trump because he went to the White House today, and look who's getting along now. This guy, MBS, was at the White House this week. Biden thought he could cut him off, but a year later he found out he couldn't. There's no perfect way to deal with Trump, but not engaging is for sure not.
This is related to another trend that Maher has been drawing attention to, which might be just as detrimental but gets less attention. The Democratic Party, according to its detractors, has grown more exclusive. If you disagree with the prevailing worldview, you are ignored, marginalized, and disregarded. The idea that being excluded is a sign of strength is totally refuted by Maher's argument. People are harder to change when you shut them out. He illustrates this more widespread tendency with Sam Harris's rejection of an invitation to the White House. Harris's criticisms are obviously outweighed by Maher's logic. Attendance is crucial because of these objections. The primary motivator for engagement is disagreement rather than disengagement.
Axios wrote a column in August entitled 11 Ways to Influence Trump, based on many interviews with people who have done that. Number 8, get face-to-face. The trick is getting in the room, away from cameras and social media. Trump will say or write horrible things, but rarely in person, one-on-one, where he comes off kinder, more interested, less erratic. Exactly. And there's a bunch of examples of this. Most recently, the CEO of Intel, who Trump was hating on, but then he met in person, and now he's a great guy. Trump was going to send the National Guard to San Francisco, but somebody talked him out of that. Kim Kardashian, for fuck's sake, convinced him to sign legislation. Don't you get it? Do you really not get it at this point? Everything with him is done through personal relationships. He's a people guy.
Compare that to the 2024 actual results. Focus on how voters felt on a daily basis rather than taking the initiative with a broad ideological shift. Grocery prices, employment, the economy, national identity, and local security. These were not abstract concepts, but kitchen table realities. And by tackling those problems in an honest and transparent manner, he crafted a narrative that millions of Americans could relate to. Instead of just running for office, he cultivated relationships. He appealed to pride, irritation, and a genuine yearning for reform. Regardless of your political views, that is a master class in political communication that is hard to refute.
You need more people like me having dinner with him. You complain he's surrounded by ass-kissers, but your strategy is to make sure no one but ass-kissers are around him. You are not serious people.
What should be done next? Mark uses the word dialogue to start his response. Open the door, speak with those who disagree. It's because sincere communication helps to uphold your values, not because you're abandoning them. Majorities are weakened rather than strengthened by echo chambers. When leaders engage directly with critics and skeptics, they can dispel myths, strengthen their own arguments, and find unexpected points of agreement. Silencing opposing viewpoints may seem decisive in the short term, but over time it only makes things worse, feeds hostility, and widens the divide. Listening and thoughtfully responding will always be more effective than an exclusionary strategy.
Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 Days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion, and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human adjacent.
It's clear that voters are seeing a pattern that Mark consistently follows. Some Democratic Party members have a propensity to blame external factors for every setback. Opponents did this. The system was to blame for that. The odds were stacked against us. Now, acknowledging real challenges isn't the problem. When that way of thinking permeates every conversation, a problem occurs. When accountability is routinely shifting to someone else, voters are more conscious of this than most politicians. People are affected by accountability. They respond to corrections and speed up. But when there are so many ways to assign blame, that message becomes boring. Opponents argue that a concentrated emphasis on ownership, practical solutions, and results-driven leadership would be more effective in rebuilding voter trust than any amount of finger pointing.
Days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji. Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, "Hiking will call back." But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is her story. Poor Kamala. We made her the star of a rom-com and didn't even give her a gay best friend.
Kamala Harris was the result of this. Harris, according to his detractors, struggled to take full responsibility for the 2024 loss, fingers pointing outward. There were still unresolved internal hard questions. Many voters were genuinely confused about what she stood for after discovering that her campaign never really set itself apart from Biden's. When you combine that with a habit of avoiding stressful interviews and providing long, aimless answers when accuracy was required, the picture becomes challenging to defend. In a political setting where conviction and clarity are valued above almost everything else, her campaign relied too much on goodwill and generic messaging. And when the votes were counted, it was not enough.
Writes that on election night, when it was clear she lost, an aide peeled the words "Madam President" off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for God's sake.
In the end, Mark's message is clear regardless of your political position. Give up trying to keep people out. Dialogue, not echo chambers, is the path to true unity. Learning to have honest conversations and even accept disagreements is the first step toward real progress. Give up being the main topic of every message. That strategy has been tried, failed, and will remain unsuccessful. Additionally, let go of the victim mentality. The persistent grievance stance is not only annoying to watch, but it is also a losing tactic at the polls. If Democrats want to regain credibility, win back trust, and win elections, they must embrace open communication, accept real responsibility, and eschew political theatrics in favor of something that voters can truly believe in. That's the critique. It is vital to monitor the party's level of attention. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one.